there, I want to show you one of my favorite features that Moodle has that I did not discover my first year of teaching, and so I think it's an important one if you haven't played with it yet to check it out as well. So the first thing, as always, we want to turn editing on in that upper right-hand corner of your course. Then for this theme, I want to look for my course settings under the administration. So I'm going to close up my courses so I can see a little more rather than having to scroll all the way down. And I'm going to go to course completion. Okay, so course completion is super cool. I'm going to show you how to set it up for the whole class and then what to do with each individual assignment so that it tracks for the students what work they've done and what they still need to do. So the first thing is this overall course completion is we want to make sure that this is turned on, this activity completion. And there's a number of ways we can kind of have it track. And the first is by activity completion. So you can select some activities in your course, maybe each of the chapter tests or all of the homeworks in the chapter tests, however you want to do that. And this will actually allow the students to see their progress through the class so that once all those activities that you've checked are complete, their class is considered complete, or they're considered complete with the course. So that's kind of an interesting way to do it. You can also do it by completing other courses, by a date, enrollment duration, unenrollment, a grade if you want to make sure it only counts as complete when they pass it, manual self-completion. There's a lot of different ways to do that. But mostly, I just want to make sure that we have this course completion turned on. So actually, let me go back for a second to our settings, our main course settings. We see that completion tracking is an option here, and we want to make sure that says yes. So once that says yes, then we can start to play with the course completion and how we want to track all of that. So you may choose to do this portion or not. Maybe you don't want it to actually let them know that they're completely complete because you want to do that more manually. You could do that manual completion by others, and you could check yourself as the teacher. Or you could do that in conjunction with some of the completed assignments. So there's a number of ways you could do that. But if you don't want to necessarily have it add up to a whole course being complete, you can track the completion per individual activity so they can kind of see that check mark as they go down of what they've done and what they haven't. So you'll notice on my course here that next to a lot of these activities, there's either a check with a little dashed box around it or a solid box around it. So what those mean, a dashed box means there's some condition that they have to meet in order for that to be counted as complete. And the computer will automatically do that for the student. They cannot check the box, you cannot check the box. A box that is just plain, not dashed like this one down here, means that a student can manually check it when complete. So that might be something like if you post a document for them to review, or if you post a link to something that you want them to look at, and you can add a note in there that says, check this box when you've completed it so that you know you're done with the assignment. Now you can see it as well, but what I think is really helpful is for when your ES is going in to sit with the student and they want to be able to see what the student has done, because so often they don't exactly know what's going on in your course, where the student should be at each week when they have those learning record meetings. So this completion tracking is a really nice way for them to sit down and have a tool to facilitate that conversation with the students. Oh, I noticed that box isn't checked. Why not? Is that something you're supposed to check on your own, or did you miss something that you were supposed to do? So that's what I think makes this so great, actually, even above and beyond the whole course completion. Again, I think the course completion could definitely have some value, but really that in the daily conversation with parents, with ESs, to be able to really see a student's progress through the course. So let me show you what some of those options are. Let me go down to something that has a grade. You'll notice here I have this PS. You can check the box next to this note when you've completed everything on the list. So if you go back up to the top of the list, you can see that that is a solid box. So students can do that for themselves once they've done those to-dos. But once we get down to some of these homework assignments, you see a dashed box. So let me go into the settings of one of those and scroll all the way down through the settings until you see activity completion. So our choices here is to not indicate activity completion because we don't always need to use it, right? If it's just something that you're adding, like a label that you have a video in or something like that, you don't necessarily need to have any kind of completion tracking there. Or students can manually mark the activity as completed. As I showed you prior, that'll make that solid box. But if you want it to be something that they have to accomplish something for the computer to automatically check it as complete, you can have it show activity is complete when conditions are met. And so you can get different conditions. You can require that the students just look at it. They have to actually click through to it. Maybe it's not something that's going to go in the grade book, but you just want to make sure that they've actually seen it. You can require a grade. They have to get a grade. And then if you check that, it actually will also give you the option if you have a passing grade set up here. Let's say I have that passing grade set is 60. Then after I've saved that change, I can have this must receive a grade. There's actually another box that will pop up that will say students must receive a passing grade. So not only do they have to get a grade, they have to pass it. So that's particularly nice if you have something like a quiz that's automatically graded versus if you have something that is graded by hand where you're going to enter the grades into it. It might be nice just to have them submit to this activity. And that's the way that I have it for this. It's just a homework assignment. I don't want them to have to wait for me to put the 1 point in there for them. I just want them to see that if they submitted it, that they've got it checked off their list. Versus for a test or a quiz, I would probably set that they must receive a grade to complete it so that they know that I've seen it, that it's been graded, and that they've passed it, and they can move on from it. You can also set for yourself an expect completed on date so that you can have an idea of when that should be completed. That might be really helpful information for, again, that conversation with the ES or the parent so that they say, hey, it should have been done on June 26th, but the box isn't checked. Why haven't you gotten to that yet? I don't usually use that because everything in my classes is organized by week. So whatever week it is, it should be complete that week. But for something that is a longer project that maybe it takes more than a week, or like a test where I post it in advance, that might be a nice way to also have that due date show up again as a reminder. So once you do all of that, again, I'm going to hit cancel and make sure I didn't accidentally change anything. Then all of a sudden you'll see these boxes either be solid or checked. And once you have turned activity tracking on in your settings, in those general course settings, boxes are going to show up next to everything new that you create, but it won't necessarily adjust what you have already created. So if you're working off of a course that you've taught for a few years and you want to add activity tracking in, or activity completion in, you will have to go back to each of your items and add that in because it's not necessarily going to automatically adjust that setting on what is already there. However, anything new you create, it will add that to it. All right. Hope that helps. I hope that's a tool that you find useful. It can be a little bit of a tedious process if you're converting over a course that you haven't used it before, but I do think it's really valuable to get that communication, the expectations just as clear as we can make them in this online setting. I know is really crucial. We're all always looking for more ways to communicate to the ES so that they can help that student track and be successful in our class. All right. Have a great day.